Ace, final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim. With me, of course, is Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And joining us again, Dr. Squee.
Howdy.
And we've got a bumper episode this week. We're catching up. We said we would do, and we are doing. So we've got a bit of Trek news first. Then we've got the latest episode of Discovery, the penultimate episode, Species 10C. Then we're going to talk about episode 2 of season 2 of Picard, which I forget the name of now. It's
Penance.
Penance. That's the one. So first of all, Star Trek news breaking today. We've got a new James T. Kirk cast for Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, for season 2. I didn't realise they were already filming season 2.
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's
knew,
amazing.
I knew it had been renewed, but I didn't realise they were so far in.
I mean,
Isn't it amazing that we're in a world where there's this much Star Trek and they're already recording season 2 of the show before season 1's even aired? That's the point of peak Star Trek we're at.
And I mean, yeah, it certainly looks like it's a production shot, unless they've got the guy in on set in full costume just to do a publicity still. But it looks like an actual production photo.
I just hope that they're really careful what they do, because this is set in Prime Universe.
Yeah.
That they don't try altering anything canon.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I said to you guys earlier in the chat. So, yeah, I just think there is such a rich backstory for Kirk, especially, that you don't need to invent everything. You could pick up so many things which have been referenced, which we've never seen, which, like, because some of them you don't really need to see, but other which would be great adventures to see brought to life. I don't want them to invent that they've got a secret sister called Michael, say, for instance, that we never heard about and never got mentioned.
Yeah.
That would seem a bit forced to me.
No, I would agree with that. I'm surprised, to be honest, because we've talked a few times and said that we'd like to see the handover between Pike and Kirk, but maybe in the final season or the final episode. But to have him actively come in as presumably a main character, or whether it's just going to be a guest or a recurring guest,
I think he's going to be a recurring guest star.
Yeah. If they make him part of the show, it kind of ruins the fact that...
Yeah.
I know we never really saw that bridging time when he became captain and everything else. We don't know if he knew Spock before, but I don't need him to have been best buddies with Spock before. Like, you saw that relationship forged in the original series. If you put that earlier, it kind of doesn't, again, we don't have anything to say they didn't meet before, but it kind of ruins what we've established.
Yeah,
I don't mind seeing him as a junior officer on the Farragut.
No, I mean, I think my ideal scenario for it at the moment would be to use him very much like they used Pike in season 2 of Discovery, and have him come on, interact with the characters, give him a bit of depth, but not necessarily make him the main character. So,
Well, Pike was the main character of season 2.
It was, yeah. So similar to that, but not.
I mean, I'd even go with like Spock, like meeting him a couple of times, like briefly, and going, "Wow, he seems an annoying human. Glad I don't have to work with him." I would take that. I think that would be kind of fun. You can have a bit of fun with it.
I mean, from the picture, it looks like he's a commander looking at the number of stripes on his sleeve. So maybe it'll be a thing that it's almost a work experience thing that they want him to learn from Pike, and because they're grooming him for command. I don't know.
I'd like to think that what we might see is Pike sees him in his command role off on another ship. There's maybe one adventure this season. There's maybe another next, and we get 5 seasons for the 5-year mission of the Enterprise under Pike. And Pike's keeps being impressed by Kirk, and that's why he nominates him to take over the Enterprise from him.
Yeah, that's the guy.
It sort of almost mirrors, but doesn't copy what they did in the Kelvin timeline. So I like the fact that they made Pike his mentor. It's a different timeline. You can do different things. That one works. Because this is prime timeline, as Elliot says. I think, yeah, it might be fun if you did kind of have these meetings where he impresses him, that they've still got a flavor of that thing.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the menagerie, which is obviously the only time we've seen them together, and Kirk does have a familiarity with Pike, like he calls him Chris. So it's established that they do have a relationship.
Yeah.
So presumably that's what we're going to see. And Kirk's time immediately prior to the original series, we don't know a lot about. So yeah, hopefully they're not going to tread on any toes, but we'll have to find out, and we won't find out this year. It's next year. So
I just don't want to see them do what they did with Smallville, which that started as, oh, we're not going to mention Superman. We're not going to have the suit. We're not going to have, and then they just brought in everything. And they had him meeting Lois Lane in Smallville, which, like, it's very established in any version that they meet at the Daily Planet. That's part of their story. And it kind of takes from it if you do that earlier. And I don't want them to see them do that with Star Trek.
Well,
we'll see.
Smallville was a victim of its own success. It kept getting renewed
After
the plan the story to run.
Yes,
yeah,
that was a problem, wasn't it? It was so good in the early days as well, but anyway, that's for the Smallville podcast.
But we also got the first teaser trailer for Strange New Worlds. That dropped while we were doing the show last week.
Yeah, it did. So who knows what's going to happen?
That has happened quite a lot to us.
I'm not saying that they're scared of us, but I'm just saying the facts are the facts. You know, they tend to drop stuff when we're on air, so we can't pick it up.
Oh, they keep stealing our audience, don't they? You know, we're here, a little sort of start-up podcast, trying to get a bit of traction, and we go out live and everything, and we're putting it out there, and Paramount goes, you know what, we're going to drop a trailer, which, you know, I'm not being funny. I don't blame anybody if you're listening to us live to go, oh, there's a Strange New Worlds trailer. We'd have done it. If we'd have known, we'd have just stopped the broadcast and then come back. So, yeah, Paramount, stop doing that. You know, give us a bit of chance. Anyway.
Yeah, we're just a little sharkcraft. We're not like the flagship of the fleet.
Exactly. But, yeah, I mean, the teaser trailer was good. It didn't give away a whole lot, which is great.
Yeah, it made it look like they called Chris Pike back to the Enterprise, which I assume is sort of like the gap. At the end of Discovery Season 2, we knew the Enterprise had been refit.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this is the gap while it was having its refit that
Pike's
gone off doing his own thing. Like, bear in mind, he's found out that he's going to be killed or he's going to be massively injured with radiation.
Yeah. He's got a lot to process after that second season of Discovery. So, yeah, I don't blame him for having a few
And it looks like he's grown beard and gone a bit wild. And you can understand why he's done that.
Mm.
Well, I'd love them to tie that in as well and bring in when they're in the original pilot in the cage, he was kind of coping with kind of the fallout from another mission. It would be lovely if they tied it in that, you know, he's been through this before. He is someone who can fall off the rails if things go against him. So that'd be nice to bring in. And like, did you see that article? And I don't know how true this is, but apparently they were thinking of bringing Phlox into Strange New Worlds.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
But they asked John Billingshurst to audition for that part. And he's like, I did my audition. I did years on a Star Trek show.
Yeah,
that's my audition.
I am Dr. Phlox.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how true this is, but it claimed that he had talked about it.
Yeah, he's turned it down, hasn't he, because they wanted him to interview.
At least they let him interview, whereas, you know...
no, he's refused to interview.
Well, that's what I mean, but they offered him it, whereas each they just recast him, which I think, you know, given the
there's different reasons there.
Yeah. But then, there you go. Yeah, that's awful, is that? I mean, if that's true, that's terrible. I'd like to think it's not, but one other thing I just wanted to say about the trailer is some of the buildings it showed really looked inspired by, like, the map paintings that we saw in the original series.
Yeah. I hope they have gone there.
I do. I think they're trying to address the issues that some people had with Discovery, which was that visually it looked so different, which is not as much of an issue now that they're in the 32nd century.
Yeah.
But But yeah, this one looks like it's going, okay, it's going to look more modern, it's going to look more up to date, but it's going to have the flavour of the original series.
And I think better than something I raised a little while back when we did one of the classic series, Amok Time. One thing I addressed was when they done the redo on the computer effect version of the matte paintings, it lost some of the charm and the feel. I think this keeps the charm and the feel of it whilst updating it. It's a lot more true to the idea of it.
It seems to be so far. I mean, we're in an interesting situation now because I think everyone's so excited about Strange New Worlds. We just want it to be so good, and I really hope it delivers. But we've not got long to wait to find out now. So we'll move on then. We'll talk about Discovery. So this is the penultimate episode of the season, Species 10C. Long-time listeners of the podcast know that this is our first Discovery episode back since the mid-season break for various reasons. So we appreciate that we've missed the bit in the middle, but we're here now anyway. And I think this is a good one to come back on because I feel like we're getting somewhere now, which the last few episodes we've been very, very slowly getting there, but this one feels like there's a propulsiveness to it, a purpose to it, and we're moving the story on. Whether we maybe should have done this a couple of weeks ago,
I'll go further. I think this has been quite a lackluster series until now. To me, I have not taken to this series as much as
I
the
haven't.
other series of
I haven't.
Discovery.
See,
And I really feel when you're comparing this when this is coming out in a week where you've got Picard doing so well, like this is their best episode in the series, we'd probably all agree. Like it's up there.
I liked the first half.
The first half of the season wasn't too bad.
I thought
I didn't take to it, but my point was like, if this is one of the best ones anyway, then next to Picard, Picard the series has been so strong already. It's kind of showing it up a bit.
I mean, I was saying to Elliot just before we went on air, it's kind of like in the old days when Voyager and DS9 were running and they'd release them on VHS out here in the UK. And sometimes if I'd saved up my pocket money or I was lucky enough to be able to get both tapes at the same time, I'd watch them both and I'd be like, yeah, Voyager was okay, but DS9 blew it out of the water, And it got to the stage where I would just look at the descriptions on the back. It's most weeks or most whenever they released it, every 2 weeks or whatever, I could only afford to buy one. And 9 times out of 10, it would be the DS9 that I would buy because generally the quality would be so much better. Luckily,
I'd be lucky I had a brother who bought Voyager while I bought DS9.
There you go. That's what you need. But yeah, so like now, fortunately, we're not in that situation where we have to choose between them. But the comparison is inevitable. They drop on the same day, and over the last 2 weeks, one of the shows has been considerably better than the other. So,
which is a turnaround from last year because I'm sorry, but Picard was very lackluster for a series, and I thought Discovery had one of its best series yet. Like it was a perfect kind of lockdown series because it went from hopelessness to hope.
But they weren't pitted against each other last season.
They weren't.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, Discovery. So yeah, after all the shenanigans of the last few weeks, we finally got to the stage. They're approaching the 10C, and they've got this hyperfield and everything, and they're going to use hydrocarbons to communicate because we had that thing last time where there's these emotions and blah, 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 blah. And the woman from Earth, the general, is not happy about this at all. We've set her up as she's kind of working for Buck and what's he called, Tarka. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm glad we're getting there. I'm glad we're actually approaching them and getting ready to make contact now. There's this thread of Zora all episode feeling like something's off. And what I wondered about this is if Zora wasn't sentient, if this was just a ship's computer, is the implication that a normal ship's computer would not flag this at all? It's purely because it's sentient.
It's
things off.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's because she's sentient, that she's realised she knows something's wrong, but she doesn't know what.
Yeah, it's
And
like
the computer would just go, the comm badge is here. That's a comm badge signal. That's fine. She's extrapolated that, oh, that comm badge's been there for quite a while. Something doesn't feel quite right. Like she can put it in context a bit more.
Yeah, it's like something's nagging at the back of her mind and she can't quite work out what it is, which I quite like that.
I do. I think I kind of wish we'd seen more of that earlier on as opposed to being given comm punch from the ship.
Yeah, before we did the sentience storyline, if we'd have had bits like this to introduce it, maybe a bit more. Yeah, they sort of did a bit where they were like, "Oh yeah, Zora's developed a lot in between seasons," and we didn't see a lot of the. So the 10C then, we don't see them fully this episode yet, but it looks like they've been watching the James Cameron film The Abyss, because when they attack the dots, we get that water effect, and it's very. In fact, that was an alien, wasn't it? The Abyss.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and actually, when spoilers for The Abyss, when it rises up from the ocean at the end, it kind of looks a bit like the hyperfield. So, we could be in the.
Oh, crossovers.
Star Trek Abyss expanded universe now.
Finally!
It's what people have been crying out for, isn't it? I mean, and you know what? If they bring the Abyss into the Star Trek universe, it might mean James Cameron will get his finger out and bring out the Blu-ray of the Abyss, because he hasn't done that yet.
Oh, he's busy working on 23 sequels to Avatar, which everyone's forgotten about.
You know what? Just outsource it. We all want The Abyss and we want True Lies on Blu-ray. Just let someone else outsource it and upscale them. What's the problem?
True Lies would be a satisfying Blu-ray.
Yeah, True Lies was such good fun. Like when he's got the horse and he's doing the big chase with the horse and everything. Like, what kind of police officer are you? Anyway, that's for.
One thing the 10C did slightly remind me of. It made me think of. Do you remember that series of Torchwood, Children of Earth?
Oh yeah.
And you never saw that. You just saw like this box with a load of steam basically in it, or smoke or whatever.
Yeah,
and you just every now and again saw a tentacle just hitting the screen.
Well, what it most reminded me of, and we might as well put this out here, is the film Arrival. The whole setup of this episode feels like they've watched Arrival and gone, wow, that was a really good film. Let's see if we can do that. Because the whole thing is they've got this species who are behind the force field. So we sort of recreate that on the hangar deck in this one. And you can sort of see them behind it, but you can't see them fully. And the casting shapes and things. And obviously in Arrival, the movie, you've got Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner trying to work out how to communicate with them. But in this one, we've got our crew doing it. And I don't necessarily mean this as a criticism, because I think Arrival's one of the best sci-fi movies in the last however many years. And I think if you're going to rip something off or be inspired by, shall we say, why not? That was a great film. Yeah. And it's very, very Star Trek as well, is the idea of how do you communicate with something that is different and is like nothing we've come across before. And I think that's what they've been trying to get at this season. But I feel like this is the first episode where they're actually nailing that.
Actually doing it.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, I kind of like the fact that it's a language so different. They've actually got to think about how to translate it as opposed to universal translator. Done. I like that. There is this thing, again, and I mentioned it last week, where Discovery is just so, everything's got to do with emotion. And I appreciate the emotion of it, and that's always been in Star Trek, but it seems like everything's got to rely on emotion, including a language now. And it just, that theme has been hammered quite hard.
Yeah,
I think there was too much emotion in this episode.
In this series.
I know Discovery gets called out for it, but they've literally got a matter of hours to solve this before the Earth and Vulcan are destroyed. So they go off to talk about the feelings and all that, and how. And it's like, you can do that another time. You haven't got time for that now.
Yeah, we need to put that to one side.
Yeah, you put that to one side. Let's go have a scream at each other to feel better.
But that's how I felt all series on this.
Let's get on with what you're meant to be doing. There's
I mean-
there's a time and a place for these things,
Mhm.
and you can see why Discovery gets criticised by a lot of people for this, because there's emotion when you don't need it.
Yeah, and I thought last series where they did that really uncomfortable meal where everyone just cracked because there's been too much pressure.
Oh yeah,
That was a
Yeah.
really nice way of doing it. It was one episode, it was really well done. This series, just they can't have 3 words without going, actually, I'm feeling some feelings about that. I must talk about this feeling.
Yeah.
It gets in the way of stories so much. And no one could function talking about emotion this much all the
No.
time. You have to do a job sometimes. You have
Yeah.
to bury emotions, which makes it, when you deal with the emotions, so much more impactful.
Mm.
Well,
And
they
the
should be
sort of-
getting on with the job, and then at the end, after they've dealt with the whole mission, that's when you unpack.
Yeah, and they're sort of lumbering it all on Culber out there. Like in this one, it's like, right, Culber, you can talk to Zora, and he must be like, bloody hell, I'm dealing with every single crew member anyway. Now you want me to sort the computer out, like.
And also, I've mentioned before about like how it's sometimes becomes Star Trek Burnham, because it's just she's got to be at the center of every scene. And like I think it was last episode. Sorry, I forgot to say this last time. You had her and Saru both going down on a mission.
Mhm.
Don't leave anyone on the ship who is like you've got 2 captains. Leave one of them on the ship, surely.
Yeah. And they kind of do that again this week, don't they? I mean, they do explain why it needs to be all these people, because we're going to go contact and blah, 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 blah. I mean, if we're going to criticize it for that, we've got to look back to the original series where it was Kirk took Spock every time.
That's the difference. That was back then. You didn't think of backstory. You didn't think of like the practicalities of command.
But
It was just all
back
ego.
then-
It was all
Back
ego.
then, if you were doing a show, you had your main characters in the story every week.
Yeah.
whatever it
Whereas
was.
when it gets to Next Generation, they think about the practicalities of you don't
Yeah.
have all your brass on the planet, and they found clever ways of involving them or forcing them onto, down to the
Yeah.
planet for some reason. This one, it's just every week. It's like, no, we'll send Burnham through, and everyone from the main crew, we'll send them all down. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to argue with it. It is a fair point. Oh, talking though of developing some of the other characters, the mystery that we were all worrying about from season 3, why is Book called Book? We get the story finally. And, okay.
And no one goes, what was your born name then? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, yeah, good point. No one, that's a good point. But, I mean,
just wondering.
they did sort of dangle this thread last season as if it was something we were supposed to really care about. Like, oh, why is it called Book? That's not his real name. And I'm kind of glad that they've just dealt with it and moved on, and it's not a big thing, and it's not a big revelation, and it doesn't tie into all sorts of other things.
Do you not feel like it's going to be a callback later, though, where you're going to meet another one who was called Book?
Yeah, the other Book's going to turn up. Maybe, and if they do that, fair enough. But I'm kind of glad that it's not being built up as this huge monumentous thing. It's just a case of, there were a guy called Book, and we share the names, and there we go. And I do like the sort of interplay you've got between Book and Reno. Like, I mean, she's great every time she's in it, but
more of her.
Yeah,
one person who
yeah.
isn't just driven by emotions. I'm sorry,
And
it's really a nice palate cleanser.
And I know it's a scheduling thing with Tig Notaro, so that they can't get her as a season regular. But
She also wouldn't go out because of COVID.
fair enough.
She wouldn't go film.
Someone actually put out there that, like, there was an article, I forget where it was, on one of the Star Trek groups saying, what if you made her the captain? And tell me that wouldn't be a more satisfying show. I'm sorry, it would.
It'd be an interesting show, definitely. Yeah. I don't think the character would want to be a captain.
No.
I don't think that'd quite work. But yeah, I mean, and yeah, she's great in this episode. Like, she's got a spiky humor as usual, but she's also getting across to Book. Like, the choices you're making are based on the pain you're feeling, and you're not thinking straight and everything.
I've seen his calculations, and this is what he's going to do.
Yeah.
It was dealing with the emotions in a practical way. That's what I liked about it. It doesn't ignore the emotions. it deals with them in a way you would have to in a real world.
And
Yeah.
I think it's retroactively sort of making Book's motivations feel a little bit more real, because it kind of felt like he switched to sort of villain mode and got a bit too into it, and now we're seeing a bit more of the complexity and how he is conflicted about all of this. What I don't want is him to get off scot-free at the end of the season from all this, because it's like, no, you are going to go to jail, Buck. Or
Do you know what?
I don't
feel
think
like almost
I don't
like-
think he is. I think he's going to end up being the only one who can talk to the 10C because of his emotion thing.
That's a very good point.
I thought maybe it ends with him dying, like him sacrificing himself. Then you don't have to deal with him going in jail, but you don't have.
Oh, that'd be
to
good.
get off with nothing.
Yeah,
I feel like you'll be
But
satisfied.
then we're going to have season 5 of Michael moping about it for the whole
Oh
season.
no, she'll get over it. She got over Ash pretty quickly.
Yeah, Ash was a Klingon spy.
Well, I know he was, but Buck's scummer now, so I don't know. Maybe they'll do that classic thing of, what happened to Booker, and they'll be like, oh, his ship was destroyed, we can't find him, and they'll let Buck just go off for his own adventures, and
the search for Book.
like, no, don't search for him. Just, do you know what I mean? Like, they'll leave him alive. You're kind of at the end of The Rock, where they're like, what happened to Sean Connery? And it's like, oh, he was vaporized, sir.
Oh, you're just adding to the movies I've got to rewatch now. True Lies, you got The Rock. These are great movies.
Oh, The Rock's great, yeah. The Rock is a tourist attraction. Yeah, it's a great film. Anyway, Walmack, you shit. It's very good.
Yeah, Walmack, sorry.
Walmack.
That's another thing.
Yeah. It's, bring me a coffee. Anyway, I'm just going to end up talking about The Rock. So I like that we're getting a bit more for Buck. So the actual communication then. So first of all, they start off with, we're going to use emotion and let's try giving them a gift and everything. And I like that they run through all these things. Like, most cultures accept a gift as an opening gambit kind of thing. And then it gets to this Send the Light show, and we get very much Close Encounters vibes now, because it's like, right, they're doing a light show, let's repeat what they've done. But that doesn't work. Exactly, yeah.
It's because they didn't play the music.
That's it. Maybe they should have done. And it's a bit contrived, but I do like that they bring the bridge crew in. But the way they do it's very contrived. Like, well, we all had to work together last time, and we worked it out, so let's bring the bridge crew down. And then they all contribute a bit of an idea, and they work it out. But then what I found really odd is, as soon as they've solved, like, the first bit of it, Michael goes, thanks, guys, go back to the bridge. You're like, oh, shouldn't you keep them around? Because they just...
Yeah, it's like it's again, they're doing some wonderful Star Trek things, like promoting teamwork. That's all great, but they're not doing it in a very artful way. You've got to layer it into the episode so it seems seamless, so you don't even realize you're learning about teamwork. You're learning about, like, Prodigy actually did it better, and that was pretty much just talking about teamwork, but it didn't seem forced ever.
No,
In Discovery, it feels very forced.
Yeah, I'll be honest, at the moment, I think Prodigy, Lower Decks, and Picard rate higher than Discovery.
Yeah,
certainly based on the most recent season. Yeah, I would have to.
I mean, last season it was so bold to have this idea of, like, we're going to go to a new time zone for the first time in so long in Star Trek. And then it just feels very underwhelming after it.
Yeah.
It does. I mean,
it seems like a wasted opportunity.
Oh, we barely even see Admiral Silver Daddy Bear. Come on, what's the point?
That's it. I don't think we've seen him since the first episode back from the mid-season break.
Hardly had a chance to smolder before he was taken off our screens again.
Maybe we'll get some good Admiral Silver Daddy Bear next week.
Well, I just hope so.
I hope so too, and Oded Fair does as well. He's like, come on, we're a nice steady paycheck there for half a season.
I also kind of want to see the guy with the budgie clock again, just because I loved him.
Oh yeah, the budgie clock guy was there. Anyway, meanwhile, Saru's, and this is what you're talking about, like, let's have a little interlude to discuss our emotions. Saru's worried that he's getting the cold shoulder from the Vulcan lady now. And it's like, time and a place, Saru. Time and a place.
Yeah, it's like that. If he started like that, Michael as the captain should be going, look, we can discuss this another time. We've
Oh.
got an important mission to save planets.
But no, it goes back to Savior Michael again to go, I understand Vulcans as well as humans, and I can tell you this is how Vulcans do this. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Sorry, but yeah. We've never seen Spock doing that. He's never got shitty to prove a point.
No, that's true, but well, I don't know. Like, I don't have an issue with that because they have done a lot of establishing. Michael's got great insight into Vulcans and everything, but it's just a bit out there that it's like, right, let's have a bit of a chat about our love lives. Like, okay, I'll tell you what, Saru, if we don't all die and our two homeworlds don't get destroyed, maybe then you could get it on.
I mean, I just look at Picard. He was a great mentor to all of the crew, but it wasn't every time that someone had a problem they had to ask him. And I feel like that is the case with Burnham. Everyone's got to go to her with every single problem, and it just takes away a little bit.
Or Culber.
Or Culber, yeah, okay, that's true. But you know what I mean? It's like...
No, absolutely.
Yeah, there's too much of it. Oh, there's too much of it at the wrong time.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true of this episode. I mean, and I guess they've got to have interludes of some description in this because it's very talky, this episode, and very ideas heavy in terms of how we're going to communicate. And it's based on maths.
If you want to do emotions when there's a deadly climax coming up, just copy Flash Gordon. Flash, I love you, but we've only got 30 minutes to save the Earth.
Yeah, no, you're right. That was that's
how to do it.
And you had a Queen soundtrack and you're away.
Yeah.
That's the yardstick of how it should be done. You're absolutely right.
Because you say about the maths, though, I really loved the bits where they were trying to figure out what message to send. And then there was a moment where they were like, let's send this. Oh, no, wait a minute. Instead, if we send this, it's a clearer message. This is better. It was real problem solving.
And
I thought how they did the language was so good and so Star Trek.
Really, really clever. And the thought that went into it, and it's right, the light patterns tell you what order to read this into, and we can infer that must be a greater than sign and stuff. I thought that was all brilliant. And that's the stuff that reminded me of Arrival most strongly. But I can see why you need to break away from that in an hour of TV because it could get a bit heavy. But as we said, I think the emotional interludes maybe were a bit overdone this episode. We could have had more of Reno and Book. Like let's keep cutting back to that. That's the story.
That was so good. That was so good. That was the best Pader on. That's the best book I've seen all series, quite frankly.
Absolutely.
Him really struggling with it. And before it was just like, no, they killed my planet, so I'm evil now. It just all seemed a bit too macabre.
It did, and I think they're doing a good job with it now, and it ends up obviously Book gets imprisoned as well, and Tarka's plan is pretty much going to kill everybody, but he don't care, so he just wants to get this power source so he can go to his alternate universe, and it ends fairly abruptly, the episode, like it just sort of finishes with Reno saying, basically, you've got to destroy us, and that's the setup. You've got to destroy Book's ship, and that causes the 10C to break off the contact as well. So you've got this sort of two-pronged cliffhanger, really. Like, okay, we've got to stop Book's ship because that could destroy everyone, but also have we blown our chance now of communicating? So it's a good setup leading into the last episode.
And it's interesting how you go from being able to communicate on such a basic level to having any meaningful conversation. It would be nice to see if
so far they've got the DMA terrifies us. They hadn't even worked out how to say turn it off, and now somehow they're going to have to explain. Well, that ship's nothing to do with us, and we're trying to stop them as well. It's.
I mean, I used to go out with him. It's kind of complicated.
I think Book's going to be able to actually communicate with them.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, I mean, will they?
And that's his redemption story. Why they don't throw him up because he saves the galaxy.
Okay, what do you want me to send to them? Soz? I don't know. Maybe they just text speak. SOZ.
Maybe he'll use his thing that he does to show them how he felt when he saw Quasion destroyed, and that'll make them realize, oh, we did that. I don't know.
He's going to send in. It's going to be in text speak. It's going to be Soz JK. It was all a big joke.
That'll work.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a lot of ground to cover next week.
There's a lot of stuff to cover in one episode.
It's almost like we've spent a few too many episodes slowly moving towards the 10C, and we've got a lot of work to do next week. And I remember us saying this at the end of season 3 as well, and they didn't do a bad job of wrapping it all up at the end of that. But yeah, it feels like
that had the Dynamite episodes already. This one really hasn't had any. My God, that was a great episode. There's nothing in this series I can point to where it's like, oh wow, I can't wait to watch that episode again.
No,
there's quite a few in the last series.
I felt like until the mid-season break, I thought it was solid, if not spectacular. You know, it was good, but not great. And then since we've come back, I felt like we had a dip. I feel like this episode's an upswing, and I hope they finish on a high. But
even if you go back to the first half, is there one episode where you can go, oh my God, I can't wait to watch that one again?
No. But as I say, I think I would say it was solid rather than great. Like I didn't think there was any major clunkers in the first half of the season, and I thought the pacing, ironically, was well done in the first half of the season, and then it just ground to this halt. But anyway, let's see. We'll see what happens next week. But should we talk about Picard instead? Which I think we're all much hotter on. So yeah, episode 2 then. So this is called Penance. And yeah, we pick up exactly where we left off last week. And we've got this great opening sequence with Q. Q's obviously been reading his Star Trek encyclopedia because he's throwing out episode titles left, right.
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it?
It was fun. It was fun.
You're very yesterday's Enterprise.
It says Through a Mirror Darkly, which is the Enterprise episode, isn't it? So it's just on the right side of winking to the audience, I think. And I think because he's Q, we can get away with it. If other characters were doing it, you'd be like, oh, this is a bit much. But
yeah, I mean, you can even justify. Like, I think. Oh, what's that noise?
We've got a bit of interference. Elliot's mic needs sorting out again. There's a switch on his headset that keeps knocking itself off and causing interference.
Okay, and I nearly knocked out my own soundboard trying to just check. But yeah, I mean.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's still there.
And for me, it was the. I think there's 2 levels in which it works. One is yesterday's Enterprise. You can just about figure out that it would work within dialogue without being a wink to anything.
Yeah.
And also the fact that he's omniscient to the point where he can see his universe where he's a real thing and it all exists. He could see our universe. He can see where it's all a work of fiction. So it works on every level.
It does. And that I'm not sure how I feel about Q becoming the Deadpool of the Star Trek universe and being aware that he's a fictional character. But if anyone's going to do it, it's him.
It was just enough. Like if it was any more, it would have been annoying, but it was just the right amount.
Yeah.
There's that better.
Little bit better. You're a bit echoey. Oh, I can hear my own voice back. We're getting a bit.
That might be better.
Yeah. Well, there's a bit of ambient sound, but we're doing okay.
Yeah. It's not the feedback now, which was painful.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
I think we're back. I'm going to have to do some work editing this episode now. Whoa.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, so yeah, we were just talking about Elliot while you're off Q and his meta references. And so yeah, is Q becoming the Deadpool of Star Trek? He can recognize that he's in a fictional thing.
Well, he's doing what Lower Decks is doing, but it's the only live action character who could probably get away with this.
That's what I was saying. I was saying it works on both levels, that both references just about work in dialogue if you take away the episode title. Like, yesterday's Enterprise, the Enterprise from yesterday when you were on the Enterprise, that works. But also, he is so kind of existing in multiple realities. He could exist in our reality and know that he's a work of fiction in one reality.
Yeah.
So it kind of works on every level.
Yeah, absolutely. Q can get away with it.
Yeah.
We get loads of facets of Q in this opening scene. So we get this implication that something's wrong with Q, which obviously I presume we're going to come back to. We're going to explore a bit more. So that's interesting. And it gives him an edge that we've not seen from Q in a long time. Like, if this is Q that's ill or dying, perhaps, and he talks about penance, like, is he, we've always said in the past, like, Q's always kind of on Picard's side. And there was a lot of sort of respect that we got from him. Whereas, does he have a different agenda now? Is he wanting to punish?
I don't know, because he almost thinks that Picard can do something about it, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he's still trying to help Picard. I think it's like that whole thing of, even though, like, for Picard, it's been 20 years, 30 years, wherever it's been, and he's aged 30 years. For Q, it could have been infinity years, and it's like an older Q who has gone past that need to be whimsical and be silly. Now he's all about it because he doesn't have time. Like this, for some reason, it feels more urgent and more immediate, and I love that. And it seems appropriate.
And like he slaps Picard, which we've never seen. Obviously, we've seen Cisco punch Q.
Well, I wonder if it's because of Cisco why he does this.
Oh, I don't. Oh, you see, I don't think so. I think it's the opposite.
Cisco hit him, so he's decided to hit Picard. Because he even
Sorry, go on.
Because he even says to Cisco, "Well, Picard never hit me."
That's
what
true.
I liked about that. It's almost like Cisco, as great as Cisco is, I think he lost a Q by hitting him. That's exactly what Q wants, and that's why Q got bored of him and never came back. That always made sense to me. You're boring. You aren't my nemesis in the way Picard is.
No,
Picard will not stoop to hit me. He will outwit me in some ways.
Yeah.
Whereas this point, it's like, okay, I don't have time for the games we used to play. Slap. I'm not pissing about this time. This is not our previous.
That
frolics.
seems to be what it is. Like you say, there's a sense of urgency to it that there wasn't necessarily before, and it's not clear how much of this is something that Q's done to set Picard up. Like in All Good Things, it was that anomaly happened and Q intervened to give Picard a chance to save everyone. Whereas we don't know if Q has created this reality. Like, there's nothing we've seen that Picard could have done to create it. If Q, as far as we know, if Q hadn't have intervened, they would have all died on the Stargazer last week, and that would have been the end of it.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot is going to go back to the first episode.
I think it will.
Yeah.
But there doesn't seem to be any
there's a reason why the Borg Queen was wearing a mask, so you couldn't see who it was.
Yes.
And there's all sorts going on there.
But what I'm getting at is there doesn't seem to be any correlation between what happened on the Stargazer and this new timeline. It seems like Q's whisked them away to something else completely. And I'm sure we'll get an answer to that and how it works. But
I also love the idea that it's like penance, and I wonder if that penance is maybe for Picard last series, not as in the last series of Picard. I'm not going there. I know I wasn't a fan of it, but I mean just the whole idea that as opposed to Picard doing what Picard always does and staying fighting or rebelling against the Federation when it's lost its way, he gave up, and maybe there's a penance for that. Like Q taught him so much about going beyond the. It's not just a journey in time and space. It's a journey of the mind. And he gave up on that journey after all that Q did to keep humanity alive, for all that he did against humanity. I find it really interesting if it was penance against that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, these are the things
I'm sure we'll get answers. And I don't think we've got enough clues yet to work out the answers.
No, definitely
Which is
not.
Exciting. It's exciting.
That's
now.
good at this stage in the season.
I almost feel like Q has rescued Picard from the Stargazer.
Yeah,
but Q isn't responsible for this time shift.
I
think that's too obvious.
That would be my guess as well. And I think it's another one of them where something's happened and Q needs Picard to solve it for him because he can't for whatever reason. And he knows that Picard's the guy for the job, So I don't know. We're going to find out. But let's talk about alternative Picard then. So he's got his trophy cabinet. I speculated last week, is it Gul Madred? No, it's even better. It's Gul Dukat that Picard killed in this timeline.
And to be honest with you, it might have been cheesy, but I just love this. It was like, hey, here's Martok. Here's all the people. Here's Sarek.
It's so good that we got...
He's Sarek. You cut his head off in front of his wife and child. Yeah.
That's the only thing I found a bit weird in the dialogue. Just, why don't you say Spock and Amanda? Like, at least say Spock. Like, everyone knows it's Spock.
Well, it might have been Cybok.
Might have been Michael.
Okay,
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True enough.
So, yeah, like, I love the fact that this is DS9 characters because since Star Trek came back, we've only sort of touched on DS9 obliquely, usually. I mean, Lower Decks has been the one that's most touched on DS9. And it's like, oh, finally, we're acknowledging DS9 as backstory. We're talking about Dukat.
Well, Dukat, Martok. We've got the Grand Nagus.
Yeah, the Grand Nagus is there. And yeah, later on in the episode, she says General Sisko. So we're getting all these references. So I love that. It's like, yes.
That better not just be a tease. The better payoff.
I didn't see that was a payoff. I thought it was just like shall I call General Sisko? No, let's call one of the regular crew.
No, but I hope that we get some payoff and we see Avery Brooks back as Sisko.
Oh, I'd love it, but it didn't feel like that to me.
See it, to be honest. Just going from Avery Brooks is like, he wouldn't even do an interview for that documentary, like to get him out back into acting. I just don't think, from everything I've seen, I just don't think he's interested. He's happy where he is, and which is fair enough. Actors are allowed to retire. Yeah. That's absolutely fine. But I mean, it would be cool, but I don't see it.
And I want to, if he does make a cameo, I want him to be doing the full Avery Brooks. I want him to hamming it up to the point where William Shatner's going, whoa, easy now. I want him to go to that level.
If he was evil General Sisko, then yes, I would want to see him all out. So what he did in that...
How should I play it? I'll slalom, baby.
As much as I love Deep Space Nine, I love Sisko in it, but sometimes, God, the scenery chewing he does on the rewatch, I'm like, oh, this is delicious. This is totally... William Shatner. I don't know why he doesn't get called on it as much Shatner, to be honest with you.
No, when he goes full on, like, so it works brilliantly, and sometimes you're just like, ooh, this is taking me out of it a bit, to be honest, how far he's going with this.
Just him calling across the restaurant to his dad in that episode where he goes, this man knows his souffles.
Yeah. No, he's a very special actor. But yeah, I think he was a very special actor. I suspect he will remain retired, but you never know.
Yeah.
Seven's the president, and she's married to. Do you guys know who the actor playing her husband is?
Oh, I did recognize him. So what was it?
I recognize him, and I can't think who he is.
It's Soji's dad. The actor, I think he's called John Briones.
Right.
So he's the father of the actress who plays Soji.
I recognised him from Ratchet on Netflix, the prequel to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, so that's who that is. So a bit of nepotism in the casting. There you go.
Nice.
So we're talking about this Eradication Day and everything. So they're going full on with this is the word to borrow from Community. This is the darkest timeline.
Oh God, they've even got the Star Trek emblems, the arrowheads, which are like twice the size. Obviously, a penis, compensating for something.
Definitely. And it's all great stuff. Like, I like how they reintroduce us to all the characters. Like, we've got Rios is in the middle of a battle with the Vulcans, and it's showing that they're presenting this Earth as we are the Confederation of Earth and blah, blah, blah. But it's actually all crumbling beneath them because you've got these riots going on in Okinawa. And so not even Earth isn't together in this reality, which is often the case with fascist states, is that the people who live there are not happy.
This isn't a coincidence. I think this is, again, borrowing from Patrick Stewart's political philosophies, because obviously he's been deep into the making of this, and he has talked out a lot about fascist regimes in different countries and things like that. He's a very progressive person in that way, as is Star Trek always, of course. But it seems like so much of a parallel for, like, obviously they couldn't have predicted the Russian-Ukrainian situation, but it seems like dictatorships like Putin are being called out here.
And it's so easy. If you're going to do this, they could have just gone full-on mirror universe. And when I say that, I mean the way it's presented in Mirror Mirror is just everybody is evil, and you could do that, but no, this is giving it a flavor. This is a more thought out version of that. It's like, okay, if history deviated, what would Earth be like? Yeah. And it's clear that they want to rule with an iron fist, but that's not always the case. Like, the Vulcans are fighting against them. Even people on their own planet are fighting against them, and we're reintroduced to Eleanor, even not the. Here's another film for you that made me think of the car from Gone in 60 Seconds. So Eleanor, so there you go. You're going to be watching a lot of Nick Cage.
Always.
And then Raffi turns up to save him. So we're bringing the characters back together.
Also, I just want to throw out there, it's just lovely to see Patrick Stewart and Picard wake up in a universe where he's gone from this huge Federation hero to being Hitler, basically. He's woken up to find himself having slaves, just being this evil, despicable person, and seeing Picard deal with that was just so beautiful.
And it sort of takes the approach kind of how he did in Tapestry, where instead of going, Q, fix it, put it all back how it was, he kind of resigns himself to, okay, I'm here, let me see what I can do to fix things while I'm here. He doesn't immediately go down the route of, well, this is wrong, you need to sort it out. He almost sort of blends in a little bit at first, and we'll get to that a bit later when he starts hamming it up in the role. But yeah, he's kind of going undercover, isn't he, at the moment, trying to work everything out. And meanwhile, we've got Jurati's got this sassy cat program.
Spot
97 or whatever it is, yeah. And she meets up with Seven, and we find out they've got a Borg Queen, but not the Borg Queen from last week. It's a different Borg Queen. And they even say, like, no, it's a more traditional Borg Queen.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, like I've got a feeling that the Borg Queen that we saw is going to be a big surprise. It's going to be Seven or Jurati in the end.
Yeah, I've heard
that was on the Stargazer.
Yeah, this theory battered about that it might be Jurati for some reason. I mean, at this point, it's anything to play for, isn't it? It could be, literally anyone. But like you said, the only reason they've got the face covered is because you want to.
It's going to be a big reveal or a big shock or a big surprise.
Or the mask lifts up and it's Picard and he's in some extreme makeup. He is the Borg Queen.
That would be interesting. Oh, it should be Ian McKellen. Because we've not had Ian McKellen in Star Trek, and you think Patrick Stewart would have a word and go, look, do you want to come into anyway? So there's so much going on in this one.
Oh, you've got Reyes and the blonde woman when they have like the bit of a bitchy off. So you would have a cartoon cat who's kind of like talking to you. I love that little moment. That seemed pretty good.
Yeah, and I like the fact how these characters are. They're the characters we saw in season 1, but they're putting them in different situations, and we're getting to see a different side of them.
And better written, to be frank. Just better written.
So far, certainly, yeah.
And like we talked about a bit of teamwork in Discovery when they brought the bridge crew. Now this shows how you do teamwork to solve a problem.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It also shows how you do a lighter moment appropriately. You have that moment where they're having their little bitchy fight in the middle of it,
Yeah,
and it's
Yeah.
appropriate. And someone calls them on and goes, "Could you
Yeah.
just shut up and get on with it?"
Yeah.
You know, guys.
yeah. When
For
the
real, you're
bickering
doing
like
this
that.
now?
Yeah, exactly. That's how they should have
I'd hang
done it.
up on you if it wasn't so important what we're doing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they've made a good decision to split them two up because it's much more fun having them bitching at each other.
Yeah.
Rather than being, if they were all lovey-dovey and everything, it wouldn't be anywhere near as much fun. I did think though, like last episode we started with seeing Picard on the vineyard and everything like that, and that was in contrast to episode 1 of season 1. And I feel like we're doing something similar here. Like you've got Picard arriving at, well, not Starfleet headquarters, but at this headquarters, and I feel like that's a deliberate contrast to season 1 where he went to see the Admiral and asked to be reinstated and she turned him down and everything. Like, I feel like in a lot of ways we're contrasting what we're doing early this season with what happened early season 1. And I think it has been effective so far. But it leads to them all meeting up and Picard's got his theory that Q's changed the past, which again, I don't buy that because Q wouldn't need to change the past. Q would just go, I'm going to put you in a totalitarian version of reality. Boom. Do you know what I mean? Q wouldn't need to go back in time and change something.
Yeah, that's why I don't think Q's responsible for this.
No, I don't think he is. I've got a bit of a theory on who might be, which we'll get to very shortly.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it is cute, but I sort of, one thing I thought was really good, and it shows that they're going episode, as opposed to episodic, it's more of a kind of ongoing story.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that in any other Star Trek, you probably would have got a little bit of like, oh, let's show the consequences and how totalitarian this place is. And you maybe get that for 10 minutes and then you go back to the past. Whereas you get to really enjoy having an episode set in this.
Oh, a full episode of it.
Yeah.
It's so nice. And then you go to where you're going to go for in the past to rectify it.
It's worked really, really well. But it's good that we've got the Borg Queen on hand because she can work out where the deviation in the timeline was, 2024.
Yeah,
there's an interesting thing where she says there'll be a watcher waiting for you.
Yeah.
I wonder, could that be Guinan? Because we know Guinan's really long-lived and Guinan's aware when the timeline changes.
That'd be satisfying. And I just love the idea that it kind of reminded me of this bit in Red Dwarf where they go, it's like, oh, I know. What I'll do is these bars look loose. I'll wriggle one of these free. I'll crawl through. I'll distract one of the guards. I'll then go down and do this, that, and the other. And it's like, and then we'll fight our way back to the bug. Or we could use the teleport. Or at a pinch, we could use the teleport. It was like when they were going through all the different types of time travel. Because slingshot around the sun, the Enterprise did that more, did that more than once. We could do this, we could do the other. Or at a pinch, we could use the Borg Queen. All right.
Well, Girardi goes, yeah, but they had a Spock.
Yeah, I like that because when we did our whole time travel series, one of my big bugbears was, why don't they just use the slingshot around the sun? Because every time it's like, we've only got so many warp particles to beam through before we run out, and it's to create a sense of tension, which is fine. But you've got Bones' throwaway line in Star Trek 4 saying, oh, sure, a slingshot around the sun. And this sort of addressed that here and go, oh, yeah, you can only do that if you've got someone who can do the calculations.
And it sort of fits in with what they said in the movie, because it's like Spock goes, if my calculations are even one moment off, we'll just get disintegrated. And he kind of does cover that in the explanation in the movie, which they didn't in the original TV show.
True. Well. So, and the idea, okay, well, the Borg Queen can do the sort of calculations that that Spock did. So, yeah, fair enough. Now, there's a sequence around here where we get an establishing shot, and there's a statue of Brent Spiner, and there's an announcement going off saying it is Eradication Day, a good galaxy is a human galaxy or whatever, and it's Brent Spiner's voice, and the statue says it's Adam Soong, which I assume will be the character that we know Brent Spiner's playing this season. So I'm wondering if in this version of reality, something that Adam Sung invents leads to this fascist regime in some way, and they're going to prevent him from doing that. So I don't know. But I feel like that's very deliberate that we've got a statue of him here and that whatever the change is going to pivot around this guy.
Makes sense.
Because it's not a name we've heard before, Adam specifically. Obviously, we've heard Soon before, but so I feel like it's only a very brief sequence, but yeah, that's got to be in there for a reason. I like Girardi sort of winging it where they're saying, well, how come the Seven's husband comes in and goes, well, why are you all down here? And she's like, oh, well, I thought the Borg Queen said this, and so I asked them to come down and do that, and it's a really good sequence.
Yeah, President Seven shots.
Yeah, and she's thinking on her feet, and she's almost got an expression at the end of it that she's sort of pleased with herself that she's come up with this story that somehow has held together and does explain everything. It's almost like, wow, I got away with that. Well
and it speaks to what you were saying before, Jim, that the whole idea that in the first series, they've used characteristics from the first series and done it better in the second. And that's what they've done with her. They've created her fast talking can be something she can use well. It can be, I just think it was just a bit scatty the last series. This was just
bits of it was
more interestingly done.
Yeah. And then obviously the big tense sequence of the episode is we've got everyone in place, we're gonna beam everyone up, but we need to stall for time and everything. And this is where I think Patrick Stewart really hands it, where within the story, it's Picard's got to execute the Borg Queen. And because he's got to drag it out, he goes out and he keeps like clenching his fists to get the crowd to cheer for him. And he's brandishing the gun around and everything. And I think it's good fun because Picard is hamming it up. Like Picard knows he's hamming it up. Patrick Stewart's hamming it up. And I love the fact that the crowd are going along with it up to a certain point, and then they're like, oh, what's he playing at? And people start to get annoyed. And Picard, you can see him realizing, like, I can't keep doing this all night. They're going to want this in a minute.
And again, another great parallel to the first series, because this one is really well done. He gets to have a bit of fun, but it works for the episode. Last series, you've just got him doing this absurd French accent. I think because he just wanted to play with an absurd French accent.
No,
I enjoyed it, but it just didn't feel satisfying in the episode in the way this does.
Oh, I'm not letting you have that one. I liked that.
All right, I thought it was fun. I'm not saying it wasn't fun. I'm just saying I didn't think it was as earnest as this.
No, it's not. And this has obviously got a lot more tension to it because it's like, if they see through it, they are going to murder you all. So. But it does build to a really tense scene and everything. And obviously, they do beam him up.
We get a great fight with Elnor.
Oh, yeah. Elnor. I love how
she's there to guards, right, I brought you a present down. So they start beating him up, and then she goes, right, sort it, Elnor.
Yeah.
So what are we doing with that thing? And in the background...
Because he slits the guy's throat, doesn't he, with a combat as well? He's not mucking about.
He is a very satisfying character. He was one of my favorites in the first series.
There's no messing about from him when he's set loose. He knew what his job was, to keep him busy, let him beat him up till she could bring the shield down. And then he was let loose, and he goes, well, Picard told me to improvise.
Fair enough. I do wonder if one of the character beats we're going to hit with Elnor this season is going to be you joining Starfleet, so you can't just go around slitting people's throats, tempering his violent side a little bit.
I like how he keeps coming out with things like, Raffi says, like, they need a plan, and he goes, that's very good strategic thinking. And he keeps coming out with...
I want Picard to tell him off his game. Okay, it's all right you doing this in this timeline. When we're back to prime timeline, you'd behave.
Yeah, you can do it to evil fascist versions of people, but don't do it to real people. It's okay. Fascists don't have souls. It's fine.
we will change this back to the real reality and this won't have happened. That's fine. But when we're in the real reality, you don't kill people by slitting their throats.
Just an interesting thing that I have been thinking about with this episode, because Q says that he saved them from the Stargazer and he saved the crew. Does that mean he saved all the crew from the Stargazer and they've all been dumped into this reality on Earth?
No,
And they all have to cope with things.
because he says.
Or has he only taken
like
has he only saved
Yeah.
anyone who's got a name in the titles?
No, because he does say a line where he goes, "Oh, you won't be on your own. I've sent you some friends," which suggests
yeah,
he's just sent his friends, not
I
everyone.
think he's picked and choosed people who can help Picard, and as you say, coincidentally, that does happen to be the main cast members. So, it does raise the question of Soji, doesn't it? Because we've not seen her in this reality.
Soji wasn't on the Stargazer.
No, she wasn't, but neither was Raffi or Elnor. They were on the Excelsior.
But they were there sort of like when everything started blowing
They were
up.
in the battle, yeah. But I wonder if he's done it to Soji as well, so that she can, because she's part of the crew. I don't know. But we've not seen her this week, so it'll be interesting to see how she's reintegrated into it. Or maybe Adam Sung's made an android that looks like Soji, or who knows? Or maybe he's got a daughter, also played by the same actress.
Oh, he could have, yeah.
Because Data makes her as a daughter, so maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I like how when they get up to the ship, the Borg Queen's in this stasis field, not entirely unlike Baby Yoda in the first season of The Mandalorian, where he's got his little pod that they have to push around. So, if that's what you're trying to do, Star Trek, need to make the Borg Queen a bit cuter, because, that is not going to sell as many cuddly toys, isn't a cuddly Borg Queen, but you never know. And then, we finish on a big cliffhanger again, because this was one where I didn't realise how long into the episode we were.
No, I shouted out, "Bastard," when it ended. So I must have disturbed my neighbours when I watched this, because I was that into it, and then it just ended. It's like,
well, that's it. It's
I want more.
That's what I want to end an episode thinking. I want to end the episode going, "Oh, how dare you cut it off there?" That's what I want. That's a feeling I want from my Star Trek.
Yeah, it does feel a bit cruel though, this one, because it doesn't feel like we're building to a cliffhanger, and it's like, right, we're all up on the ship, we've got away. Oh no, we haven't, because the magistrate's here and he's shot Elnor, and but like you absolutely say, it does leave you wanting the next episode, which job done.
Yeah, and I certainly thus far, I haven't felt any way along the way of like, what's happening? What are we building towards? What are we going for here? I don't quite, which I got all the time in the first series, and I haven't once felt that. I've just felt it's a really great story. I just can't wait to see what's next.
I want to see what's happening next.
Do you feel like you know where it's going to a degree, which you didn't get
so far, like we've had 2 episodes, but they've been very, very different as well. Even though it has been serialized, we've been following the same story, but it's 2 very, very different, very, very good episodes.
Something I've noticed this season as well. Have you noticed how they're getting in with the close-ups of the ships? And how we're getting proper looks at them, which is an improvement on the first season, but a massive improvement on anything Discovery does with the ships.
Yeah, because
we saw the Serena really close up this week. We got right into it.
Yeah, like I noticed the contrast even more this week. So I watched the 2 shows back to back, and you see Discovery, which I do think is a good-looking ship, is Discovery, particularly the upgraded Discovery A. And I'm like, why can't we do some shots like that? Like we're doing in Picard. But I mean, stylistically, it's a different show. It's shot differently. They're going for their own visual aesthetic.
There's shot differently, and then there's just never showing us what a ship really looks like.
Looking at spaceships.
I know. Exactly. No, I totally agree. I was hoping maybe some of this will rub off on Discovery a bit. But I can't. Also, on the other hand, I kind of get why they're going, look, we've established our visual identity for 3 seasons. We're not going to change it up. But But yeah, no, this is how I want my Star Trek to look.
I
Definitely.
mean, I would say, but Discovery was better at doing it in the first couple of series. I seem to remember, like, it wasn't this bad at never showing anything
Yeah.
even remotely up
I
close.
don't know. It took a long time before you got. I mean, you got like a hero shot of the Discovery first time we saw it, but then it was a long time before we got more. Really,
I mean, it just seems very noticeable that in the far-flung future, which they're in now, you never see an up close of a ship, not once.
no, you don't. It's true. Anyway, so that's Discovery and Picard for this week. We've got more coming next week. Any other closing thoughts you want to raise, guys, before we sign off?
I think Picard wins right now.
Yeah,
I want to see
Picard wins
Discovery.
hands down.
Yeah, well, let's do
Raise
that while we're doing episodes against each other. When we've got 2 episodes a week, let's decide which one was better, just for a bit of fun. Are we unanimous that Picard was better this week?
By
Yeah.
a long shot.
Yeah, and this is the worst. It's Discovery at one of its higher points, and it's still not touching the hem of the coat
Yeah.
of Picard at the
It
moment.
isn't at the minute.
Yeah.
So
Like,
yeah,
Picard
I'd
is
go
like,
with
they've
that.
listened to the fans, and they're giving us what we want.
Yeah, and talk
And
about
this-
playing the
and-
ball where it
and- but-
lays.
But then you've got Discovery still doing what it wants to do, and not listening to the fans.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 sides to it, isn't there? Like, this is a good example of listening to the criticism, acting on it, and improving something. A bad example of it would be something like The Rise of Skywalker, where they seem to be just ticking off people's grumbles about the previous film, and it didn't work, so it can go disastrously wrong doing that, but so far Picard seems to be nailing it, so yeah, I agree. Picard easily this week. Last week as well, Picard was definitely better.
And again, Picard at the moment, some of the best Star Trek ever, really. Like, as long as this series continues. Because the only thing is, when you're serialized like this, you are reliant on it keeping on being good. Because otherwise, what you set up before doesn't look as good when you watch it back.
That's the problem.
So it's got to keep up the standard. But if it does, this could potentially be one of the best series of Star Trek ever.
It could be if it maintains this level. That's the big question. Next week, Discovery should be better because the season finale should be better than episode 3 of 10.
Yes.
But we'll find out next week, I guess.
Well, I think next week we're going to get a slingshot round the sun.
I think we are.
Done with modern special effects, so that's going to be interesting.
I wonder
to
if we'll
see.
get all them weird heads floating around like we did in Star Trek 4. That's always a really odd sequence, but
that would be so much fun. Oh, that would be such fan service. Please
It
let
would
me
be
do. I would have
funny.
missed it before you said that. Now I'll be wanting it.
Oh, and just as we're closing out, last bit of Trek news that I just found out. It's the 40th anniversary of The Wrath of Khan, and they're re-releasing it in UK cinemas, I believe, in June. So
I'm sorry, but
we
once
will
you've
be
seen
going
it
to
with
that.
Shatner, I don't know what's going
that's
to be
the
there.
fair point. Yeah, I don't think they'll have him going around every single multiplex in the UK. So
I've seen it with Shatner. That's all I'm saying. Me and
Yeah,
me and
you
me and
win.
the Shatmeister.
Yep, you win. Well done.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to get in touch with us, we're on Twitter at RetrekPod. You can email us, retrekpod@gmail.com. Come and join us on Facebook. Check out the YouTube channel, which houses these videos. Elliot's got his modeling channel on there, where he's been working on all sorts of stuff, an Enterprise, a Voyager, a Death Star.
I've got the aircraft carrier Enterprise I'm working on at the moment.
Yeah. And Dr. Squee, you've got the Dr. Squee show?
Yeah. I don't know what's going to be coming next week, but this week, which will, again, I'm behind the podcast, but it will come out at some point. Did a wonderful interview, a couple of interviews this week. One which was with Dave McLean, who's a music producer who's got a film out called Schemers, where it talks about his early days of kind of getting involved in the music industry. He just starts it up basically so he could run discos to meet girls. And then he ends up bringing Iron Maiden to Dundee. And now he manages Iron Maiden, Nirvana he's worked with, and Foo Fighters,
Wow.
Smashing Pumpkins. He's amazing. It was just a really nice chat, and he's a Scottish guy, so he just talks his mind completely, which is always fun.
Excellent. And you can, if you can't catch it live, you can get that on the podcast, can't you?
You can, and then it's every Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Fantastic.
UK time.
And I think that'll do us for this week then. So thanks for trekking with us this time. We'll see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Live long and prosper.